We've got to do better at education. People don't understand, but you will understand when those hospitals in rural America start closing down even more. You will understand when you don't have your Social Security. You will understand when your Medicaid, your Medicare goes away. You will understand as planes continue to fall out of the sky. Soon you will understand why it's important to maybe have somebody that isn't loud and ridiculous, and maybe Sleepy Joe is what we wanted because we could at least sleep at night.
Now, you just heard it, the ghetto Congresswoman herself, Jasmine Crockett, spewing out nonsense as usual. As she just said how maybe it was better having Sleepy Joe because at least she could sleep at night. Well, we all now know Joe was asleep at the wheel, looking at the state of this country. And also, listen to her talk about planes coming down. I'm so sick of these libtards always bringing up these planes as if in the last 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, President Trump caused the FAA to just go haywire. As a matter of fact, in this video, I'm going to highlight the hypocrisy of Jasmine Crockett, and I'm going to let you in on something. In case you didn't know, she is actually being considered as the front runner for the Democrat Party. That's right. The ghetto Congresswoman, because they say they love how she takes it to Trump. And they really believe that that ghetto neck waving sass talk is going to be something that attracts voters to the DNC. It'll make more people run to the Republican Party. So I hope they do run her. She's racist. She disrespects and calls white people everything in the book except their name. She's always preaching to black people and people of color, explaining why they should continue to be victims and join her victimhood coalition. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for drama, if it wasn't for being loud, and if it wasn't for being ghetto, she wouldn't be known for anything. You don't hear of any hellified things kind of coming out of her district in Houston. Like, she's just doing so much for the people. She was an attorney who is power hungry like the rest of those Democrats, and she don't give a damn about the American people. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a clip about what she said about President Trump and Elon Musk, explaining how they plan on giving dividends back to the American people from the money they found. And real quick, I'll break it down. From all the money of the waste that they're catching and they're stopping, they're talking about giving the American citizen, you and I, 20% of whatever it is that they catch. And right now it's at $55 billion. So that would be $5,000 for American citizens. And you're going to hear what this Democrat Congresswoman had to say about that, what she thinks about the people getting the check. So I'm going to start this off and take you into the congressional room where you can hear what was important to Ms. Crockett at one point in time. Check this out.
I don't want to be redundant. I think that if we haven't figured out by now, we know that y'all are constantly failing, right? And honestly, our job is to win for the American people. And so while this committee tends to be probably the most divided committee in the Congress, especially this Congress, it is amazing the times that we can agree. And we agree that right now taxpayer dollars are being wasted. I'm gonna just keep it all the way real.
If you're enjoying this video and you like the content, do me a solid, hit that like button. I'll never ask you for a cash app. I'll never ask you for a super chat, but you hitting that like button, that is currency. It helps spread the video around. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. On this channel, I share political and current events and selling tips and techniques. And so once you subscribe, hit that notification bell and select all. That way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. It's funny how all of a sudden she was concerned about taxpayer dollars being wasted, right? Under the Biden regime, she's concerned about taxpayer dollars being wasted. But check out what department she's concerned about it coming from.
And what's frustrating to me is that while I applaud my colleagues from the other side of the aisle bringing this and pointing out that there is definitely a ridiculous amount of waste when it comes to defense, and that doesn't mean I'm anti-defense before the haters on Twitter start getting crazy, because we all want to be free. We all want to feel safe here in this country, and we appreciate what defense does for us, but everyone has to be held accountable, especially when we are dealing with the budget deficits that we're dealing with, especially when we are dealing with the inflation that we're dealing with. And unfortunately, I sat through Rules Committee this week, and it took everything in me not to blow up, because I had colleagues from the other side of the aisle as we are dealing with NDAA, and we have real things to address, such as how are we going to get DOD on track? Do you know what they wanted to talk about? Do you know what these amendments are going to deal with? They're going to deal with things that don't have anything to do with the budget, such as they want to talk about if they're going to deny access to healthcare for women. That's a priority in NDAA. They wanted to talk about whether or not trans folk would have access to the healthcare that they need. That's what they want to talk about. They want to deal with the things, and of course they want to fight about Ukraine and not recognize that it is important that this modern day democracy is upheld. So what I want to talk about
You hear? You hear what her focus is on? Now, not once has she said anything about the American people at all. She's concerned about transgenders. She's concerned about Ukraine.
SNAP benefits, as we're dealing with record inflation, they got less money and defense got more. That is exactly what happens. Somebody got more, somebody got less, instead of focusing on the waste that's going on here. And so the only question that I have for you is, what do you need from us? What is needed so that we can actually stop being performative? Because what I don't want us to do is try to pretend as if we really care about this waste that's going on by having this hearing. If we know that the problem is that we have not modernized, what is the problem with modernizing? Why can't we? Because it's not for a lack of resources. Is there anyone that can tell me why we cannot modernize, especially since we have the best military in this country, but we can't figure out how to count our money and count our guns?
Now, we just heard Ms. Crockett give us her explanation of how wasteful spending is a bad thing, and getting on the Department of Defense about how they need to fix it. Now let's fast forward it and put it at present day, and let's see if she still has that same type of energy under the Trump administration. Because under the Biden administration, she acted like she was all for it, even though they did nothing. See, she can get on TV and spout and talk like she's all about cutting the fat and being a part of the oversight committee. Wow, billions upon billions were walking out of the door under Democrat watch. Now that the Republicans are running the show, now all of a sudden, it's a problem. Check out this hypocrisy.
Yeah, so oversight, the purpose of the oversight committee is to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And right now, we've not heard from Elon Musk nor anyone else that works for DOGE. So it's interesting that prior to, it was a matter of Elon Musk is the one that's running DOGE. He is the one that is shutting off funds. He's the one that's committing basically a lot of constitutional as well as legal issues as it relates to our monies and what we do in Congress. But now they're saying, no, he's just there to advise. And in an advisory capacity, the president can have whoever he wants advising. The problem is that no one has come before my subcommittee or any other committee in Congress to talk about their proposals. Instead,
I got to stop it right there. Now, you heard her say our monies, not the people's money. She had a Freudian slip. She said, what he's doing with our money. And that's how these Democrats, that's how these libtards think. They honestly believe and feel the American taxpayer dollar is theirs. And anybody trying to come and do something with it is in for a fight. We just had one congressman, and I may do a video on this, Garcia from California, who literally went on CNN calling for people with actual weapons to show up to fight against Elon Musk and DOGE, peeling back the layers of the onion. Why these Democrats? And you just heard in the previous clip, Jasmine Crockett talking like, she's all about cutting waste. And now that it's actually being done, she feels like one of the smartest people on the planet, the richest person on the planet, has to come before her. And even the way she said it, he can come before my subcommittee. As in, who are you? Now, what she's not talking about is she loves to bring up billionaires, and now she's buddy and hanging out with Alex Soros, George Soros' son, who's also a billionaire and who's the one lining the pockets, allegedly, of Miss Crockett and a ton of the Democrat libtards. So her hypocrisy, and these people forget that we have video. We can see you. We have historical record to what you said one day to what you say the next. And listen, I'm all about evolution and growing and changing. That's fine. But when you see somebody completely do a total 180, and we're not talking about in years of growth, development, we're talking about in months. Almost like how they went from worshiping Joe Biden, all of a sudden Kamala was the greatest thing walking. Obama 2.5 in the dress. Waste, when she was in front of that TV and that hearing with the Department of Defense, waste, and it's embarrassing. Y'all are failing budgets, yada, yada. But now when we go to the departments and the agencies that she loves, like USAID, who had no accounting, no budgeting, like the Treasury Department that we now find has been sending billions of dollars to people allegedly 160 years old. Do you know, literally, the Social Security Office has been sending checks to people. I want to say it was like 1,000 people who are literally listed at over 160 years old. Millions of people between the ages of 130 and 160. Millions of people between the ages of 100 and 129. And we don't have that many people of that age living in this country. But let me let her continue.
post proposals on social media, or they claim to have found waste, fraud, or abuse. And we know that the vast majority of waste, fraud, or abuse exists within the Defense Department. And yet there's not been any conversations yet whatsoever about the fact that the Defense Department has failed to pass an audit in at least the last 6 audits.
Now look at how the focus is on the Department of Defense, the agency responsible for keeping America safe. That's where she wants to attack, just like she'd rather give money to illegal immigrants. In that previous clip, she kept talking about $6 a day and SNAP benefits. Who do you think was getting those benefits? That was illegal immigrants getting that. She's all about that. She is not about America first. She's about Ukraine. She's about illegal immigrants. And she's about trying to race hustle some type of an uproar between whites and blacks, acting like she's standing on a stoop and it's 1954 and she about to get everybody together to go do a march. This ain't that, Miss Crockett. And we got some beautiful and intelligent white people, Asian people, brown people, black people that do share ideologies, that don't see each other as enemies. But that's all the Democrats have. Really think about it. If the Democrats didn't have divisiveness, if they didn't have some type of victimhood, they wouldn't even exist.
You're also calling on Musk to appear before Congress. Why? What do you want to ask him?
Well, first of all, I want to ask him, what exactly has he been doing? Who is it that he's hired? Who is it that he's firing? How he's coming to the conclusions that he's coming to? What makes him believe that getting rid of our workforce, including those that are in charge of keeping our nuke situation safe or keeping planes from falling out of the sky? I want some analysis behind what it is that he is recommending to the president or to OPM or to anyone else that is engaging in what I feel like is more so a dismantling of our modern day democratic republic. And I want him to basically prove me wrong. I want to know that there is some end game that actually benefits the American people. And it's not just about lining his pockets, which we see as he recommended to turn off the spigot of money to everyone else. He ended up garnering himself an additional $400 million contract for Tesla and an additional over $300 million for SpaceX. And we know that the Republicans right now are proposing to raise the debt ceiling. Why do you need to raise the debt ceiling if somehow you are going about saving us a lot of money? And it is because of these tax cuts that they are also proposing that they are not talking about to the American people. And I want to make sure the American people have the full story.
This lady is so full of crap. Now, she talking about she wants him to come before her and explain to her. Not only has DOGE and the Trump administration been the most transparent administration ever, they list everything they find on the DOGE X page, on the DOGE website, in the daily press conferences. Now, it's funny how she wants all of this transparency now when Joe Biden literally hid out in his basement when he campaigned, spent 40% of his presidency on vacation, never did press conferences, hardly ever, where the press could ask him questions. And when he did, we all know now it was staged. They knew the questions in advance, and they already had the answers for him prepared, written down on a cue card. Now, but she wants all of this, stuff to be before her. Who is she? Her, a congresswoman, expects the president of the United States, who is in charge of the executive branch, can do what he liked with the executive branch. You want him? You expect him to come before you and testify? And see, that's why they keep propping this lady up. You're going to see a lot more of her. She's going to be on the networks a lot because they really believe selling that ghetto, ignorant crap is going to help them regain power. The Democrat Party relies on their voters being ignorant and stupid. They really do. That's why, like, when they were yelling, Project 2025, 2025, anybody that took 5 minutes to look into that would realize there was nothing racist in it, and there was nothing scary in it. As a matter of fact, the outlined agenda in Project 2025 sounds like a great country to me. They sound like a great country to me. But see, they knew their voters, if they do all the yelling and screaming, their voters would say, oh, I'll trust Jasmine. I'll trust MSNBC. I'll trust CNN. I don't even need to read it. Matter of fact, I'll act like I read it and run around spouting what they said, telling everybody how scary it is. And every time I've challenged somebody to debate me publicly on what was negative and what was bad in that, they decline. They decline. Now, in this next clip, I want you to hear. Now, she was so concerned about SNAP payments to people. She was so concerned fighting for the illegal immigrants. Check out what she has to say about you and I getting dividend, not a stimulus. See, the stimulus checks, they had to submit that to Congress for approval because it was a part of the budget. And what she knows, but she's not going to state because it's not in line with the Democrat lies and talking points. The reason why they don't have to go through Congress for this is because it's monies that Congress wouldn't even have known existed if it wasn't for DOGE, President Trump, and Elon Musk. So why would they come to you, who's responsible for it, going out and getting lost, to get approval to give it back to the people that you took it from? So no, Ms. Crockett, he's not coming before you to ask your approval. And as a matter of fact, we got to have more people speaking out against this woman. We really do. People like her, she's ignorant enough to rile up a little group that can create problems if they're ignorant, if they don't read, which is a lot of people on the Democrat side. It has nothing to do with race. It's not about racism anymore. It's classism. But see, the Democrats charade and mask it like it's civil rights. Matter of fact, Malcolm X said something. He said a Democrat is the most untrustworthy person in the world because they smile in your face and act like they love you and like you all behind the guise of civil rights, all while sticking it to you. These folks are dangerous. We got to watch out for them. Now, check out what she says about this check, though.
Now, President Trump says he likes the idea of giving some of the savings from DOGE back to Americans as kind of a dividend. Would you support that?
Listen, he's just telling a lie. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200 refunds that people had during the midst of COVID that was done by a Democratic House and Democratic Senate. Right now, what they're going to do is say, hey, we want to give you a refund, but Congress won't let us because they already know that there's just no money for that. The only reason that those refunds came before was because we were living in different times. This was a time in which hopefully we won't ever go through again. We had a once in a lifetime pandemic. The bad part is that I don't know if it's once in a lifetime because we know that Ebola, unfortunately, was detected right here in New York here recently. And if we continue down this road of getting rid of scientists or deciding that we don't want to rely on experts as it relates to what they're telling us to do, or we don't want to deal with vaccines and medicine in this country, then we may be facing not only our next pandemic, but our next 2, 3, or 4 pandemics because of their incompetence. So no, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do for you if you are unable to find a job, because I am telling people we are headed towards a recession because the United States government is the 15th largest employer in the world. And so firing those that work for the federal government isn't going to necessarily create new jobs in private industry. In fact, Southwest Airlines, based in my district, just announced for the very first time in its entire existence that they are doing a layoff of approximately 15% of their workforce. If you pay attention, the signs are there. And I'm not telling you to be an alarmist. I'm telling you because I want to be honest with the American people. And my background, believe it or not, I was a business major, and none of this looks good for us right now.
Okay, there's several things I'm going to chop up on that. Number one, now, she loves to say, oh, you know, Trump didn't have anything to do with that. Trump's name is on those checks. Trump authorized that. He was the president. He could have vetoed that to oblivion if he wanted to. That's number one. Number two, what they don't talk about is President Trump wanted to give $2,000. The Democrats wanted $1,200. That's number two. That's the second point. Thirdly, she says, what's $5,000 going to do, especially if you can't find a job? Well, the person that's out of work would welcome that $5,000, Ms. Crockett. You don't worry about that because people don't know this. On her $174,000 a year salary, she has a net worth of $9 million, multiple homes. How did she get that being a member of Congress? Could it be her relationship with the billionaire Soros? Now, she also pointed out the fact of saying how Congress didn't have the money. Again, they don't have to go through Congress for that because it's not coming out of the budget. It's coming out of the waste that has been saved. So just as you went to school and you have a degree does not qualify you as to be the GOAT, to be the greatest or the most knowledgeable on it. It's quite the opposite. And number two, this woman is supposed to be so much for the American people, scoffs at the fact that the president is willing to give back what was taken from the people, what's rightfully there. Democrats hate giving up money. Think about it. They wanted to give people in North Carolina $700 after they lost their home. Folks in California, $700 after losing their home. Trump talks about 5,000, and did you see how she scoffed at it? And that's why the Democrats are in such a bad spot. Everything they do has to be anti-Trump, orange man bad. So even when he's doing something great for the people, they have to go against it. And Trump is playing 5D chess. They know what they're doing, putting these things out, forcing the Democrats to publicly go against it. Now, Miss Crockett here talks like how she cares so much about the American people. I want to show you a clip of Miss Crockett. Recently, she was on the Breakfast Club. And while on the Breakfast Club, they were asking her different things about the economy, which she thought about Trump, Elon. And I want you to hear who Jasmine Crockett says that she's rooting for. Could it be America or could it be other countries? You tell me.
My thought is that I'm still black in America and I ain't finna play no kind of games.
Word.
Like, so I am gonna walk the straight and narrow for a number of reasons. Number one, I have some morals about myself. And number two, I know that they would love an opportunity to lock me up, right? Like I would be the exception to the rule. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Canada has really been the one to call it out. The fact that I'm rooting for Canada and I'm rooting for Mexico a lot is really wild. But they are really the ones that are speaking truth to power right now.
That is extremely wild. Ms. Crockett, you are a U.S. Congresswoman, and you're rooting for Canada and you're rooting for Mexico because you said they speak truth to power. Because you dislike somebody who's putting America first. You dislike a man who is saying no more of the Democrat shenanigans, no more of the bureaucracy, no more of the slush fund piggy banks. That's why you despise him and you hate him, because he is actually doing what you're supposed to do, which is be about the people. Be about the people. You're not about the people. You're about yourself, like the rest of those libtards are. And I'd be so happy she gets voted out of the office. But you know what? Her district in Houston is one of them ones where, as she heavily relies, that are uneducated voters and love the popping and the this, that, and the other, rather than substance, rather than intelligence. Because she's been in Congress all of this time, and they had the ball, like she said. It was a Democrat Congress, Democrat Senate, Democrat White House under Joe Biden. And what did they do for the American people? And what did they do for the illegal immigrants? And when you answer that question, that lets you know where their allegiance lies. And that's why I'm so happy that on November the 5th of 2024, America spoke loudly and resoundingly, and we're going to keep speaking. So listen, as always, I appreciate you watching this video. Like the video if you haven't already. Share the video. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Thank you so much sincerely for watching. And remember, I got my new show starting in 3 weeks. I got some special guests, and I'm saving to announce the name and the lineup once I get confirmation, and we make sure that the name that I chose is available legally for me to be able to use it. But just keep that in the forefront of your mind. Brian's got a show coming up, and he's going to have some powerful politicians on, just keeping it real and talking about day-to-day topics where we can get those questions answered that you might not get when they go do one of those big interviews. They come on and hang out with us and give us some insight. So thank you again. As always, I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out.